I am literally checking myself out for my chicken at this machine, and it's asking me if I'd like to tip.
I'm literally at the airport at the self-checkout machine buying a water. Self-checkout. Who is this even going to? Like, I'm again at self-checkout.
For what?
After the Civil War and the end of slavery, black workers who were formerly enslaved were usually only able to get service jobs. Racist employers looking to exploit labor found a way to avoid paying black people any wages at all. They decided that customers could just tip them for their services instead of paying them themselves. From there, the use of tipping to pay workers became more and more common. Before the Civil War, tipping in the US was rare, and it definitely wasn't used to pay someone's entire wage. Then in the early 1900s, a bunch of employers who wanted to keep labor costs down and prevent workers from organizing formed the National Restaurant Association. Since then, they've lobbied Congress to exclude tipped occupations from minimum wage protections and later to establish a lower sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. That's why today, the federal minimum wage for tipped employees is just $2.13 an hour. Tipped workers are 2.3 times more likely to live in poverty than non-tipped workers, and they're more likely to be people of color, women of color, or single parents. They're also disproportionately born outside of the US. Tipping is still used as a way to exploit workers, squeeze more out of customers, and keep people, especially black and brown people, in poverty.
Tipping culture has shifted from being a genuine gesture of appreciation to an institutionalized system that props up low wages, and corporations have been the main architects of this shift. At its core, tipping is a donation, and donations are by definition voluntary and unpredictable. When a donation becomes the foundation of someone's income, it stops being a bonus and starts becoming a survival tool, which is deeply unstable. What was once an optional act of gratitude is now built into payment systems, checkout screens, and social expectations, effectively converting what should be voluntary generosity into a mandatory supplement to wages. This is not the fault of the workers, many of whom rely on these donations to survive, but the direct result of companies pushing the cost of fair pay onto the public. By normalizing donations as a primary income stream, corporations avoid paying livable wages while presenting the burden as a matter of personal generosity. It's a quiet transfer of responsibility from employer to customer, dressed up as kindness. This model is unsustainable because it masks systemic wage exploitation under the appearance of choice. A service worker's ability to pay rent or feed a family should not hinge on the mood, bias, or financial comfort of each customer they serve. Once a worker is forced to rely on donations to make a living, it is no longer just a workplace issue. It's a sign of a collapsing work environment, and beyond that, a collapsing economic system. The instability built into donation-based income ensures that workers live with constant uncertainty, while companies benefit from stable profits. As tipping becomes embedded into more industries, even ones with no traditional service element, it risks becoming a default substitute for wages across the board. The uncomfortable truth is that unless the focus shifts back to holding corporations accountable for fair pay, tipping will remain a corporate safety net disguised as a social norm, leaving workers dependent on the kindness of strangers instead of the stability of a paycheck.
You see, if your business runs and depends solely on the exploitation of your workers, you're a shit business owner. Stuff like this is exactly why I hate tipping culture, and this is coming from someone who tips. And if I don't have cash on me, I'm sending it straight to your Cash App. I'll Apple Pay it to you. Me and my husband's Cash App names are in plenty of waitresses' Cash Apps in this world, okay? But I still hate tipping culture because it pushes this idea that the enemy isn't the multimillionaire or billionaire CEO who's raking in all this mass profit from you and your other coworkers' hard work. The real enemy is the 9-to-5 worker who stops in at your restaurant to grab a bite to eat, who may not be able to afford to tip you because, everybody's living paycheck to paycheck these days. And with the cost of living, it genuinely is not cheaper to cook at home anymore.
Tipping culture creates a fundamental imbalance between servers and customers, turning what should be a simple transaction into a source of tension. Servers rely on tips to make a living, but these are never guaranteed, leaving their income unstable. Customers, on the other hand, face an unspoken obligation to pay extra on top of the bill, often without knowing if their contribution will truly make a difference. This dynamic puts both parties in a difficult position, servers needing to earn enough to survive, and customers feeling caught between fairness and frustration. Meanwhile, employers benefit by keeping wages low and shifting the responsibility of compensating workers onto customers. The result is a fractured relationship where neither side wins, and the power and profit remains firmly in the hands of the employer.
Did I miss something? Because I'm completely confused. So I just go to Dairy Queen to get an ice cream and a blizzard for Doodlebug. So my total was $7.68. So I gave the lady $8 in cash. So she takes my $8 and she says, a minute later, she comes back to the window. Do you really want your 32 cents? And I looked a little confused. I said, yes. So she kind of got an attitude. Okay. So she closes the window. So I'm sitting here like, why would I not want my change? I'm just a little confused. So she comes back and she's going to give me the 32 cents. And I'm like, do people not normally want their change? Because I'm confused by what the hell just happened. And she says, well, people normally tip. The fuck? What is going on with this tipping culture? I fully understand tipping when I am getting a service done outside of their normal job. Like if I'm ordering groceries, if I am going to a restaurant and they are serving me my food, if I'm at, wherever that they do not make a full salary. What the hell am I tipping you for? You're already getting paid to work at Dairy Queen. So what am I tipping you more for? I am confused as hell. So now she has an attitude because I want my 32 cents in change. Absolutely, I want my 32 cents. The fuck is wrong? Look, y'all have gone too far with this tipping culture, period.
I'm not sure what the fuck just happened, but I went into a sandwich shop and I went up to the window, ordered the sandwich I wanted, which was a pre-built menu. It wasn't like I went down the line and you built the sandwich for me in front of me. I ordered and I got a drink and I went to pay for it, which I picked up at a different window. And I went to go pay and I pressed no on a tip and the transaction went through and she said, you didn't tip me. I said, I know. I know. And I was very kind, very polite. Right? She said, well, why not? And I said, well, I ordered a sandwich and I'm getting it to go. There was, I didn't feel like there was a tip needed. She goes, well, everybody tips us. And she goes, we're making your sandwich for you. And I said, isn't that what your hourly wage is for? And I guess I was like dumbfounded just a little bit. And I still feel like I'm in shock and speechless just a little bit. But I am all for tips where it's deserved. Bartenders, servers, waitresses, your hairstylist sometimes, and however that works and you're part of if it's built or you go to whatever. I am all for leaving a tip when it's a service job that you have given me a service for and an appropriate tip. But all I did was walk to the window, order, and take it with me. Why should I have been felt guilty to not have left a tip on an $8 sandwich that was on your menu? I don't know. I got to get over that one before I drive away.
Here's an unpopular truth about tipping culture that rarely gets attention. Tipping isn't just about money. It's a sign that America is shifting away from valuing work as a shared social contract and more toward treating jobs as isolated, unstable gigs. In countries without tipping, workers expect fair wages, and employers take responsibility for paying them. But in the U.S., tipping puts the pressure on customers instead of businesses, turning work into something unpredictable and insecure. This encourages a gig economy mindset where workers are seen as temporary and replaceable, and customers become part of the payment system instead of just paying for a service. It's a quiet breakdown of trust and respect between workers, employers, and society, showing that the idea of steady, reliable work is slipping away. Instead of building strong communities and fair workplaces, tipping culture helps keep workers in constant uncertainty and competition, which isn't sustainable for anyone. The reason tipping is mostly an American thing has less to do with culture and more to do with a system that refuses to protect workers properly. America has fewer labor protections and weaker social safety nets than most developed countries, so businesses use tipping as a way to avoid paying decent wages. This isn't just a flaw in how restaurants pay servers, it's a reflection of how the whole work system is breaking down. When a country lets tipping become the norm, it's a sign that the social contract between employers, workers, and society is eroding. People's jobs aren't secure, incomes aren't reliable, and the basic idea that work should support a stable life is falling apart. If this trend continues, it points to a future where more people work without real guarantees, and society becomes less connected and more divided. Tipping culture isn't just about money, it's a warning signal about how the world of work and community care is unraveling.
I didn't tip the cashier at McDonald's. She gave me a medium instead of a large. Asked for a large, and she did this right here. No fucking way.
Restaurants have gotten to the point, especially the employees at restaurants, gotten to the point where their entitlement is out of control when it comes to tipping, and it just really makes your experience bad. It's like a game of chicken, because I remember a lot of people on social media that worked at restaurants were saying a couple years ago, like, if you can't afford the tip, don't come out.
Yeah.
And people were like, all right, bet.
No.
Yeah, I don't need to. Like, you're not really saving me any money. The food's okay half the time. And the tipping's out of control. Yo, I hate tipping.
Yo, you and me both. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, even I went out the other day and the food was like pretty expensive, right? It was like a nicer restaurant. And I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, like this is it's not even like, it's already an expensive bill. And then I got to add a tip on top of it. Like, I remember it was like 10% at one point. Now it's 20%.
Bro,
and
the things doesn't, because 15% was a good tip back in the day.
Yeah.
Tipping in the United States has gotten out of control. Just finished dinner in Italy, had a great 3-course meal, paid the bill, the waiter brings out the check and goes, sign here, please. I go to sign it and there's only a line to sign your name. There's no tip line, there's no total line, nothing. You just sign your name, that's it. Meanwhile, in America, you pay for a water bottle and they flip the screen around and ask you to tip 20 to 30% for grabbing a water bottle. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to tip for great dinner service. Like, this guy in Italy deserved a fat tip. But to tip for a Starbucks employee to hand me a water bottle, like, where do we draw the line, seriously?
What do you get per hour on tips?
Even if people are tipping the 20% that is standard for great service, most servers are tipping out 3 to 5% of that to bussers, hosts, and bartenders.
What if I leave you nothing?
Then we have to pay that tip out whether you give us money or not. So like, say your bill is $100 and you don't tip me at all, I'm paying $5 to wait on you.
What? That seems like that should be illegal. Why should that come out of her pocket to pay the bussers, the bartender? That upsets me. That should be on the owner or just on people like, hey, if we don't get a tip, none of us give a tip. That should not be coming out of her pocket.